What's up, everyone? It's Bryan from the Exact IT Solutions YouTube channel, and welcome to another video where we help educate you about all the crazy things that are going on out there around cybersecurity. And today we have three major hacks going on. That's why I'm doing a video today. We have EA Sports was cyber attacked, McDonald's was cyber attacked, and we also have an interesting one that you'll hear a little bit about. But it might not make the mainstream news. But this company called Sol Orions, and they are a Department of Energy contractor who is under attack by the Russian hacking group Revil. And if you remember Revil, they were they were the ones that hit the Colonial Pipeline. So that's what's going on. That's what we're going to talk about today. So remember, hit the like button if you like our content. Remember to share us out and subscribe to our channel. Here we go. All right, so I usually share my screen and show you kind of news articles. You're not going to have any trouble finding any news articles about what I'm about to talk about right now. And essentially, we have three attacks, right? And why I wanted to do these attacks is because these cyber attacks are hitting closer and closer to home, and they're becoming less and less of a far out technology type issue, and they're becoming more and more of a personal issue for a lot of people in a lot of places. So, we saw it with Colonial Pipeline, we saw it with the JBS meat hack. That starts to affect consumers' ability to buy gas, to buy meat, right? So what do these attacks mean? What do specifically the McDonald's attack and the EA Sports hack and the Sol Orions hack really mean to the average American? And that's what I'm breaking down for you today. So let's start with the first hack that came out the other day, which was EA Sports. Now, EA Sports, their source code for all of their games have been lifted off of their network and stolen by cybercriminals. And you might not think that this is a big deal, right? But EA Sports has come out and said that none of the gamer information has been stolen. At least they don't have any data or any evidence to show that. That doesn't mean that things won't change down the road, and they will find something to let people know that actually, no, we were wrong, and gamers' information was stolen. Now, this is very common where companies very early on come out and make claims that X, Y, and Z wasn't touched, when then we find out a month later on a Friday night, they do a press release and let everybody know that, oops, remember that hack we had a month ago? Yeah, your data was actually stolen by the cyber criminals as well. So let's assume no data was stolen in the EA hack, and let's just look at the fact that their source code for their games were stolen, right? So what does this mean? All right. So as you know, a lot of you may or may not know, but esports is a thing, right? Esports, e-gaming is a thing, and kids and adults compete on teams to play these games. Now, one of the things that could come out of this is that hackers could release certain information about how the games are constructed to give certain gamers an advantage when playing the game. That's one of the things, and really that's kind of low on the list in my opinion, but that's just one of the things that could happen. The other thing is that this is intellectual property that EA Sports owns and developed, and they spent millions of dollars developing these games and getting them to the point where, quite frankly, if you're a sports gamer, this is the world-class, top-of-line, gold standard company for these types of games. And it's also, very popular with other kind of RPG shooter games and things like that. They are one of the top producers of these games. And now this source code can be given to competitors, or people can figure out how EA's been developing their games and develop games that are on par or equal to what EA's doing. So that's another problem. And this isn't exclusive to EA. Any business that has their intellectual property stolen runs this risk where what they've built and the value that they've created in their products and services is completely diminished overnight, because now other people have access and it can be sold and shared and what have you. The other big thing is similar to what we saw with SolarWinds. Now we have the source code of these games, and things can be implanted in the source code if they had access to it, right? So just like the hackers had access to SolarWinds and they were able to implant undetectable malware in that software, it's not a pipe dream that they couldn't do this with video games and infect these video games with some kind of malware that is able to get control of gaming systems and things like that. And then if a hacker can get control of your gaming system that's on your network, they can get to other computers on your home network, or maybe you're working from home and they can get to your work computer. This is not like fantasy world, folks. This is literally how this stuff happens. This is how hackers get to the big companies and get to the things they want to get to. It's a little involved, and and it seems like, wow, would somebody really take that much time to invest in that? Yes, they will. And if they could, deploy malware to every single PlayStation or Xbox that was out there, just think of, all the damage that they could do as a result of that. So that's another big concern that I have. Probably the biggest is that the source code was accessed, manipulated, and changed, or they can figure out later on how to access and manipulate change if EA doesn't properly close off any backdoors or access that these hackers now probably have to their network. So hopefully EA recovers from this. It's not a good situation, but I'm sure if you game or you have kids that game, this should be a conversation that you're having at your dinner table about the risks of using information when you sign up for games and things like that. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, even though they claim that no gamer information was stolen, that we don't know that for 100% yet. And let's just say your kid's data was stolen by these hackers. What would that mean to you? Like, are you comfortable with that? You're usually sharing things like your birth date and your address and all these types of things with the gaming companies, and now they're not protecting your data like they should. So these are the types of things that you need to talk about with your kids and make sure they're not sharing too much information with the gaming companies than really what's needed. And a lot of times you may not want to use your child's information. You may just want to use your own information or obfuscate the name in some way, shape, or form if you can do that. So moving on to the McDonald's hack. So McDonald's was hacked big time. A lot of different countries were involved in this where they operate. The United States happened to be one of them. And we have the company saying that a lot of employee information was stolen as a result of this cyber attack. They aren't saying anything about customers and things like that. Now, when we see attacks against employees, they're usually a treasure trove of personal information that you can use to do a lot of damage to somebody with. Like, you could apply for credit, you could apply for unemployment, you can do all these things with the information you get from an HR file at a company like McDonald's. Now you have access to probably millions of people's social security number, home address, income information, stuff that people think that you're keeping private and under lock and key. Now criminal hackers have stolen this from McDonald's, one of the largest employers on the planet. So this is the concern for companies when employee information gets hacked, because we see it all the time where employees then get emails from, say, the Department of Labor for your state saying, you just filed for unemployment, or here's your unemployment benefits, and you never did anything like that. So by that point, somebody had already filed, probably updated your address so the check gets sent to the criminal and not, you. So there's a lot of things that happen here that are really annoying, really frustrating for the employee. that they're going to have to deal with. And if a lot of people's identity gets stolen as a result of this, this is going to cost McDonald's hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits, let alone what they're going to have to pay to recover on the technology side from the cyber attack, the lawsuits and everything that are coming down the pike. So moving right along to the third big one from today, Solar Orions, and they are a Department of Energy contractor. They're a small business, but unfortunately, they were attacked by Rebel. And Rebel, as we know, and as I've said on this channel lots of times, steals the data before they do their damage. And they have stolen the data here, and they have stolen a lot of confidential, classified Department of Energy, think power plants, nuclear plants, things like that. They've stolen plans and data and information around these infrastructure, these power infrastructure facilities and projects and things that are going on. So there is a lot of stuff going on here because they are basically using what they have, the leverage that they have because of the sensitive nature of the data. They're using that as great leverage. And now the hackers know that they have kind of the U.S. government as leverage here because it's the U.S. government who really doesn't want this stuff getting out. So similar to what we saw with one of Apple's vendor hacks where they tried to go after Apple and tried to get Apple to pay the ransom because they knew that they had hacked the company that designs the cases for the MacBooks. They are using the leverage of the relationship between this small business and the U.S. government Department of Energy to try to get more money than really this company should probably be able to afford. But the other side of that is now they can go around and try to sell this data to foreign countries, private industries that maybe don't have the U.S. best interests at heart. Things like that. And these are major concerns for Americans when you're dealing with things around your power grid and stuff like that. So this is our third attack in 24 hours where I feel these three things are hitting closer and closer to home. And the reason I kind of warn you this way is because you're going to start seeing the devices you're setting up in your home become targets of cyber criminals. And one day you're going to wake up and some device that you set up in your home is now part of a cyber attack and your information was stolen as a result or something worse. So cybersecurity has been something that I've been doing for well over 5 years, going on 10, somewhere probably between 5 and 7 years. It hasn't been around that long. But it's something I'm passionate about, and it's something that I want to make sure people are aware of. And I just feel it coming closer and closer to the everyday individual American as we move along here. This used to be a problem for businesses and a few people, but as we move through time and these cyber criminals are refining their tactics, they're getting better at what they do. So are the cyber defenses, but the cyber criminals are adapting, and the nature of the beast of what they do is just means they're going to adapt and get better and exploit bigger and more prominent companies. So that's really it in a nutshell. This is getting closer to home, closer to most of you guys who are watching this, and it's really on you to put pressure on your employer, the people that you do business with, the people that you give money to. If you're dealing with a business, you want to make sure that they're taking care of your information, especially if you're like applying for a mortgage or you're doing anything along those lines. Make sure that mortgage company or that title company is doing cybersecurity properly. And if they're not, and if you don't get a good sense that they're forthright and they have a plan and they're not able to demonstrate that maybe with like a sheet of paper where it spells out like, here's what we do to protect your information, maybe you want to find a provider who does, that actually has a sense of cybersecurity and builds that into their company and into that culture. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what successful cybersecurity looks like. It's built into the company. It's part of the culture. Everybody understands that they have a part to play in the protection of the data that their customers entrust them with. So that's it for me today, folks. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next week, I'm sure, with more cyber attacks. Stay safe out there. Drop a comment if you like anything in this video, or if you have any questions. And remember, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you soon.